Hello, or sorry, hello. My name is Charles, and in today's video, video is gonna be the start in the spirituality section, um, of just like a Bible walk series. Today's gonna be episode 1 of the Bible walk series, and for this series, right, I don't claim to be some like high and mighty authority or someone who knows it all, who's got, the truth that no one else has got. And so I'm just a simple individual trying to understand and share to the best of my ability. And I hope it helps. It's stuff that I think is important, and it's just beautiful. It's just built in love. So it'll just be like one verse at a time for each episode. And then to the best of my ability, my understanding of why it's true and why it matters. So for this first one, it is Luke 16:10. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much, and whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with much. Wow. So, so let's get right into it. Why do I think this is true? I have some little notes here. I try to prepare like a couple pages and stuff. I hope this goes well. So why is this true? So all relationships, and even like I feel like human society, or at least Western society at large, we try to build on the foundation of trust. If we look at the banks, for example, the credit system is built on trust, right? That they trust that you're gonna pay back your dues. When we engage with friends, with our partner, with family, they expect us to be honest and sincere. They expect us to tell the truth. No one appreciates being lied to, and so I actually looked up I think a lot of what it's about with that quote, with like whosoever is honest with very little can be honest with a lot. I think what they're talking about there is reputation, and sort of like an internal reputation with yourself, reputation with others, and then even like trusting and kind of honoring God. So I looked up the definition of reputation, the etymology of it, and the Latin roots are like think over, and on the online etymology dictionary it says count over. So if you imagine the credit system like counting over your previous payments, or your reputation with a friend, or your devoted partner, right? Your ability to be honest, all those times that they remember you were honest, you were truthful, or that you weren't honest and that you weren't truthful. And kind of it comes from like thinking over those moments or counting over those moments. And even with yourself, right? When people have like self-confidence, I feel like self-confidence a lot of the time is derived from, and when people feel like they can accomplish a lot, it's derived from, I said I was going to do X and I did X. I said I was going to do Y and I did Y. Like fulfilling those promises that we even make to ourselves. And so, to continue, right, your reputation is based on, in my opinion, your reputation is based on behavior and how you made people feel. There's an old quote that people remember more of how you made them feel than what you said. And so I think to kind of explain why this quote is so true from the Bible, in talking about reputation and kind of honoring the little things which manifest into the big things. It's funny enough, AA is actually a good example here. People who struggle with addiction. Because if you study that, or if you study that group of people, there's a common thing where all their family members, presumably, and even their friends have all heard like the I'm sorries, or, I'll do better next time. But the speech is not what changes the reputation, right? It's the prolonged behavior. So they change the behavior. They stop using the drug or alcohol, and initially they don't get any reward. No one trusts them still, right? And so, that may be hard or difficult to deal with, but it takes time to establish that precedent of trust and honesty once again. And so, I think, I think fundamentally the reason God put that in the Bible was because that counting over, if we look at the etymology of the word reputation, like counting over from the past, I think leads to our decision making. It like shows how we as human beings make decision making in terms of how we trust people and how we how we view their sincerity and whether or not there's action behind it, right? Because action is what creates, like, over time, that action and how you made people feel, how loving you were, how kind you were, that determines the reputation. And from the etymology, counting over, the amount of time, the consistency. And so I think God was pointing at an absolute, like, truth when he was talking about, whoever can be trusted with very little, who is honest, about the little things, can be trusted with very much. And you can even think about this with finances, right? If you're like me and you sometimes you spend too much, right? If I'm given a lot of money, and or if I'm given a little bit of money, I got to be able to manage that well and to be able to be trustworthy with that money. Then I can manage more, and so on and so forth. And the inverse is always true, right? And because you imagine if they're dishonest about the little things, dishonest when it's unnecessary, then they may be dishonest in other circumstances too. And so I think God was pointing to an absolute truth based on, at least in my understanding, right? Bear in mind, I don't claim to be the sole authority or always right. I'm certainly not always right. This is simply my best understanding so far. And I think he wrote it because we humans trust based on that counting over, that reputation with ourselves, like that consistency over a period of time with ourselves, with others, and also how we made people feel, how loving, the attitude, and how kind we were. So I hope this helps. This is my understanding of the passage. Luke chapter 16, verse 10, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with very much, and whosoever is dishonest with very little will be dishonest with very much. Hope you all have a wonderful day. God bless and much love.